Welcome to your personalized deep dive.
Yeah.
You mentioned wanting to build better habits, so today we're going to dive into Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about how tiny changes can lead to remarkable results.
Right.
And I've got an expert here to help us unpack it all.
I'm happy to be here.
So,
You're in for a treat.
awesome. So let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
What's the core idea behind Atomic Habits?
Well, the central premise is that tiny changes can make a massive impact on your life if you apply them consistently over time.
Okay.
It's like compound interest,
Yeah.
A small amount invested regularly can grow significantly over time.
Makes sense.
Same way with habits.
Okay, I see the analogy.
Small changes to your daily habits can accumulate into remarkable results over time.
So how does that actually play out? Is there like a real-life example from the book that kind of illustrates that?
Oh, absolutely. James Clear himself actually used these principles
Okay.
to recover from a pretty severe baseball injury in high school.
Oh, wow.
He had multiple facial fractures and a broken nose.
Ouch.
Yeah, and even experienced double vision for a while.
Oh, my gosh.
So it was a long road to recovery.
Yeah.
And he couldn't just jump right back into his athletic life.
Right. So how did he use tiny habits in that situation?
So instead of trying to do everything at once, he focused on small wins, incremental wins.
Okay.
For example, he started with just walking in a straight line, gradually building back his strength and confidence.
Wow.
And eventually, he returned to baseball and even became an All-American athlete in college.
That's incredible.
Yeah, this experience solidified his belief in these tiny gains.
It really shows that even when faced with setbacks, focusing on small, consistent actions can make a huge difference.
Right. It's not about making these giant leaps, but rather about the tiny gains accumulating over time.
Okay, so we understand that small changes matter,
Yeah.
but how do they actually become habits? What's the mechanism behind that?
That's where the concept of the habit loop comes in. Clear breaks down every habit into a 4-step framework.
Right.
Cue, craving, response, and reward.
Cue, craving, response, reward. Okay,
Yeah.
break that down for me.
Okay, so the cue is a trigger that tells your brain to initiate a behavior.
Okay.
It could be anything from a specific time of day to a particular location or even an emotional state. For example, let's say you have a habit of grabbing a cookie every time you walk past the cookie jar.
Oh, yeah.
The sight of the cookie jar, that's your cue.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What happens after the cue?
Next comes the craving.
Okay.
That's the motivational force behind the habit. It's the desire you feel for the reward.
Okay.
Whether it's the taste of the cookie or just the feeling of satisfaction you get from checking your email, anything like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the cue triggers the craving.
Right.
Then what?
The response is the actual habit you perform.
Okay.
The action you take to satisfy the craving.
Gotcha.
Like reaching for the cookie and taking a bite or opening your email app.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So we have cue, craving, response.
Hmm.
What's the final piece of the puzzle?
The final step is the reward.
Okay.
This is that satisfying feeling you get from completing the habit.
Okay.
It could be the taste of the cookie, a sense of accomplishment from finishing a task, or even a dopamine hit from social media. The reward kind of reinforces the habit loop,
Right.
making you more likely to repeat it in the future.
So it's this continuous loop happening in the background, constantly shaping our actions.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Think about your morning routine. You probably don't even think about the individual steps,
Right.
like brushing your teeth or making coffee.
Totally.
They've become automatic because of this habit loop.
It's amazing how much our brains are on autopilot.
It really is.
But if we want to change our habits, we need to figure out how to hack this loop, right?
Exactly. And that's where Clear's 4 laws of behavior change come in.
Okay, tell me about these 4 laws.
Okay, so the first law is make it obvious. It's about bringing awareness to your habits and the cues that trigger them. One technique he suggests is something called pointing and calling,
Pointing and calling.
which might sound a little silly,
Yeah, a little bit.
but it can be really effective.
Okay.
Think about those Japanese train conductors who point and call out each signal as a safety measure.
Right.
By verbalizing their actions, they're raising their level of awareness and reducing the chance of errors.
So how would I use pointing and calling to change my habits?
You can apply this to your own habits by simply stating what you're about to do.
Oh.
Like, I'm going for a 20-minute walk now, or I'm putting my phone away for the night.
Gotcha.
By verbalizing your intention, you're bringing more awareness to the action and making it more likely that you'll follow through.
So it's like a mini pep talk.
Right.
I like it.
Simple but powerful.
What are some other ways to make it obvious?
Another tool is the habit scorecard. This is basically just a list of your daily habits with a plus or minus sign next to each one
Okay.
to indicate whether it's a good or bad habit.
So you can see what you need to change.
Exactly. It helps you identify the behaviors you want to change and brings awareness to your autopilot mode.
That's a great idea. It's like taking inventory.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've got make it obvious. What's the second law?
The second law is make it attractive,
Okay.
which is all about increasing the appeal of good habits and making bad habits less tempting.
Okay.
One strategy for this is temptation bundling,
Okay.
where you pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do.
I like that. Tell me more about temptation bundling. How does it work?
Okay, let's say you love listening to podcasts,
Okay.
but you also know you should be doing more stretching.
Right.
You can bundle these activities by only allowing yourself to listen to your favorite podcast while you're stretching.
Okay.
You're linking something you enjoy with something you need to do,
Gotcha.
making the stretching more attractive.
Now I'm starting to see how these can apply to my own life.
Yeah.
What about the third law? How do we make it easy?
Make it easy is about reducing the friction associated with good habits and increasing the friction associated with bad habits.
Okay.
A great example is setting out your workout clothes the night before.
Yeah.
So you're more likely to exercise in the morning.
That's something I definitely need to do. Takes away that excuse.
Right.
Are there other techniques for making habits easier?
Clear has this technique called the 2-minute rule,
Okay.
which states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do.
Okay.
The key is to make that starting point ridiculously easy.
So I can form a new habit in 2 minutes.
Well, it's not about completing the entire habit in 2 minutes.
Right.
It's about making the initial step so easy that you can't resist doing it.
Okay.
For example, instead of thinking, I need to work out for an hour,
Yeah.
you start with, put on my workout shoes.
Okay.
Or instead of write a chapter, you say, open my laptop and write one sentence.
I see.
By focusing on those first 2 minutes, you're building momentum
Gotcha.
and making it much easier to continue.
That's a brilliant strategy. I love how practical that is.
Right. It takes away the pressure.
Yeah.
Makes starting a new habit much less daunting.
Okay, we've covered 3 laws so far.
Mm-hmm.
Make it obvious, make it attractive, and make it easy.
Right.
What's the final law?
The fourth law is make it satisfying.
Okay.
This is all about ensuring that your good habits are rewarding and your bad habits are less so. We're leveraging our brain's reward system to help us solidify those positive changes.
Okay, so how do we make our good habits more satisfying?
One powerful technique is habit tracking.
Okay.
This just means keeping track of your progress.
Okay.
Whether it's marking an X on a calendar, using a habit tracker app, or even just making a list.
I see. Okay. I
Yeah.
could see how that would be helpful.
Yeah, habit tracking, it gives you a visual measure of your progress. It
Yeah.
can be incredibly motivating. It's a reminder of how far you've come and helps you stay focused on your goals.
It creates that accountability.
Exactly. If you know you need to mark off your progress,
Right.
you're less likely to skip a day.
And it's also just satisfying.
It is. It feels good to check something off your list.
I can totally relate to that.
You know, to see that chain of X's growing longer.
Yeah, like those gold stars we used to get in school.
Exactly.
So habit tracking makes things more satisfying.
Yes,
But are there other ways to enhance that reward factor?
absolutely. Clear also talks about the importance of reward systems,
Okay.
which can be both intrinsic and extrinsic.
Okay, what are those?
Intrinsic rewards are feelings of satisfaction or joy that come from the habit itself.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're a runner, you might experience the runner's high after a good run.
Gotcha.
That's an intrinsic reward.
Okay.
Extrinsic rewards, on the other hand, are those external things we give ourselves as a reward for completing a habit. This could be anything from watching an episode of your favorite show to enjoying a special meal or buying yourself a new book.
So if I'm trying to be more consistent with my meditation, I might reward myself with a cup of tea afterward.
Exactly. It's about associating your good habits with positive feelings and experiences.
Right.
And remember, it's important to choose rewards that align with your overall goals.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It has to align with your goals.
Right.
It's about supporting your long-term aspirations.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered the 4 laws of behavior change, and I'm already feeling empowered to start implementing some of these.
Right. It's great stuff.
Yeah. But before we move on,
Mm-hmm.
I want to touch on another key concept, identity-based habits.
Oh, yes. This is crucial. It's not enough to just change our actions. We need to shift our identity as well.
Okay, tell me more about this connection between identity and habits.
Clear argues that lasting change comes from shifting your identity, not just setting goals.
Okay.
He says behaviors are usually a reflection of your identity. So instead of saying, I want to lose weight, you might say, I am a healthy person who makes healthy choices.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's about aligning your actions with your desired self-image.
So it's about embodying the change.
Exactly.
So instead of I'm trying to quit smoking, you become I am a non-smoker.
Right. Exactly.
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
It is.
It's not just about changing what we do, but changing who we believe we are.
Precisely. And as you start to embody this new identity, your habits will naturally align.
This is all so insightful.
Yeah.
It's really making me rethink my approach to habit formation.
It's good stuff.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to touch on one more concept, the Goldilocks rule.
Ah, yes. The Goldilocks rule. This is one of my favorites.
Okay.
It's about finding that sweet spot of challenge where tasks are just beyond your current ability, but not so difficult that they become overwhelming.
So finding that perfect balance between comfort and growth.
Exactly. Clear emphasizes that the greatest threat to success is not failure, but boredom. We need to find that Goldilocks zone,
Right.
where we're challenged enough to stay engaged, but not so much that we give up.
I've definitely experienced that.
Oh, yeah.
When things get too easy or too hard, you lose motivation.
Right. Exactly.
It's about finding that sweet spot that keeps you coming back for more.
Precisely.
Okay.
Clear actually shares an example from weightlifting.
Okay.
There's this elite coach who emphasized handling the boredom of consistent training.
Interesting.
The most successful athletes weren't always the most passionate. They were the ones who could stick to the schedule, even when it wasn't exciting.
So it's not just about bursts of motivation. It's about cultivating the discipline to show up consistently.
You've got it. Consistency is key.
Okay.
And that's where those tiny habits we talked about earlier come in.
Right.
By focusing on those small, manageable improvements,
Yeah.
you're less likely to get bored or overwhelmed.
It's building momentum.
Exactly. You're creating a foundation for lasting change.
Wow. This has been an incredible start to our deep dive into atomic habits.
Good stuff.
I'm already feeling inspired to start designing my own system of tiny changes.
I'm excited to see what you come up with. We've still got plenty to explore.
I can't wait.
Welcome back to our deep dive into atomic habits.
I'm ready for more.
In the last part, we explored some core principles, the habit loop,
Right.
the 4 laws of behavior change.
It was fascinating to see how tiny actions can have such a big impact,
Yeah,
especially over time.
exactly.
I'm really intrigued by those 4 laws.
Yeah.
Make it obvious, make it attractive, easy, and satisfying.
Yeah, they provide a really practical framework for understanding and changing our habits.
So now I'm curious about how we can apply those laws to break bad habits.
Yeah,
That's something I think a lot of people struggle with.
absolutely. It's a common challenge.
I've tried to break certain habits so many times,
Right.
and I just fall back into those old patterns.
Happens to the best of us.
It can be so frustrating. What does Atomic Habits say about tackling those stubborn bad habits?
Well, one of the key things Clear emphasizes is the power of our environment.
Okay.
He reminds us that behavior is influenced not just by our willpower,
Okay.
but also by the context that we're in.
So it's not just about having enough self-control.
Right. It's not just about willpower.
Our surroundings actually play a big role.
Absolutely. A huge role.
So like if I'm trying to break a bad habit, like constantly checking social media, should I start by redesigning my digital environment?
Exactly.
Like deleting those apps from my phone
Uh-huh.
or using website blockers?
You're on the right track. He actually suggests inverting the first law of behavior change.
Okay.
So instead of make it obvious,
Right.
we flip it to make it invisible to break bad habits.
Make it invisible. Okay, so like if I'm constantly snacking on unhealthy treats,
Yeah.
I can make it invisible by keeping them out of sight.
Exactly. Out of sight, out of mind. Right.
Makes sense.
You reduce those visual cues that trigger your cravings.
Gotcha.
So you're less likely to indulge.
Simple but effective.
Yeah.
What are some other examples of how we can make it invisible?
If you're trying to cut back on mindless TV watching,
Mm-hmm.
you could unplug the TV after each use or even take the batteries out of the remote.
Okay.
Just make it a little more inconvenient.
Yeah, to just turn it on habitually.
Exactly.
Or logging out of your social media accounts
Yeah.
if you're trying to limit your time there.
Right. Or moving those apps to a less accessible location on your phone.
So clever.
Little things can make a difference.
What about the social aspect? How do the people around us influence our habits?
The social environment is hugely influential, yeah.
Okay.
Clear talks about the importance of surrounding yourself with people who support your desired habits.
Okay.
He talks about 3 groups we tend to imitate:
Okay.
the close, the many, and the powerful.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Who are those groups?
So the close are those in your immediate circle.
Okay.
Family, close friends, roommates,
Yeah, excellent.
colleagues. We tend to pick up their habits,
Right.
whether we realize it or not.
Subconsciously?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then the many refers to the larger groups we belong to, our
Okay.
community, workplace, or even online communities.
Right.
We often conform to the norms of these groups, even subconsciously.
That's like peer pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then lastly, the powerful are those individuals we admire or aspire to be like.
Right.
We often imitate their habits in an attempt to gain status or approval.
So if I want to develop a consistent writing habit,
Yeah.
joining a writing group could be a powerful way to create that supportive environment,
Absolutely.
like connecting with other writers.
Exactly. You're immersing yourself in a culture where writing is valued
Mm-hmm.
and encouraged.
Okay.
By surrounding yourself with people who share your aspirations,
Right.
you're more likely to stick with it.
Yeah, and just that accountability and support.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, the accountability and support of a group can be incredibly motivating.
This makes me want to reevaluate my social circle and
Yeah.
seek out those who are living the way I want to live.
It's a great way to set yourself up for success.
Okay, so we've talked about making bad habits invisible,
Right.
surrounding ourselves with the right people.
Yeah, right.
What other strategies are there for breaking those negative patterns?
So he emphasizes this technique of increasing the friction
Okay.
associated with those unwanted behaviors.
Okay.
Remember the third law: make it easy.
Yeah.
Well, we can use the inverse. Make it difficult to break bad habits.
Make it difficult. Okay, so if I'm trying to spend less time on my phone before bed,
Mm-hmm.
I could make it more difficult by leaving my phone in another room
Exactly. That's a great example.
or charging it outside my bedroom,
That's a good one.
so I'm not tempted to scroll.
Right. By adding even a small amount of friction,
Yeah.
you're making that unwanted behavior less appealing.
Right.
It disrupts that automatic impulse
To reach for the phone.
to reach for the phone. Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Another example would be using cash instead of your credit card
Okay.
for discretionary spending.
Interesting.
Creates a psychological barrier.
Right, you have to think twice.
You have to think twice, yeah.
These are really practical strategies. It's amazing how small adjustments
I know, right?
can make a
It's
difference.
fascinating.
Okay, so we've talked about environmental influences,
Mm-hmm.
but what about our mindset? How do our thoughts and beliefs play a role
That's a great question.
in changing our habits?
Our environment is incredibly influential,
Yeah.
but our internal world also plays a significant role.
Okay.
Clear emphasizes reframing our thinking
Okay.
around those behaviors we want to change.
So it's not just about changing our actions, it's about changing how we think about them.
Exactly. For example, instead of viewing exercise as a chore,
Right.
you can reframe it as an opportunity to take care of your body,
Okay.
to improve your health, or just to enjoy moving your body.
I like that.
Or instead of seeing meditation as something you have to do, you can view it as a gift you give yourself.
Yeah.
A chance to cultivate inner peace,
Right.
reduce stress.
I love that shift in perspective.
Yeah.
It's about focusing on the positive
Essentially.
rather than dwelling on the difficulty.
Right. It's about finding ways to make those good habits more appealing
Yeah.
and enjoyable, remembering that second law.
Make it attractive.
Make it attractive. Reframing your thinking is a powerful tool for that.
This is starting to click for me.
Yeah.
It's about creating a system
Mm-hmm.
that supports those desired habits
Yes.
from the outside in and the inside out.
You got it. Designing our environments, shaping our mindsets, and understanding those underlying mechanisms of the habit loop.
So insightful. I'm feeling more equipped to tackle those stubborn habits.
That's great to hear.
There's one concept we touched on that I'd love to explore further.
Yeah.
The idea of making habits satisfying.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
How can we leverage rewards to make those positive changes stick?
You're talking about the fourth law, make it satisfying. And it's where we tap into our brain's reward system
Right.
to solidify those positive behaviors.
We talked about habit tracking.
Yes, habit tracking plays a key role here.
I can definitely see how tracking our progress can be motivating and satisfying,
Yeah.
especially as you see those streaks building up.
Exactly. It gives you a sense of accomplishment,
Right.
and it reinforces your commitment to the habit.
But Clear also talks about those reward systems.
Yes.
Both intrinsic and extrinsic.
Yeah.
Can you remind me about those?
Of course, intrinsic rewards come from within.
Okay.
They're the feelings of satisfaction, enjoyment, or accomplishment you experience from the habit itself.
Right.
For example, if you enjoy cooking,
Okay.
the process of preparing a delicious meal can be its own reward.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then extrinsic rewards are those external things we give ourselves
Right.
as a reward for completing a habit.
Okay.
Like watching your favorite show,
Oh.
indulging in a special treat,
Makes sense.
or buying yourself a new book, things like that.
So if I'm trying to build a regular writing habit, I could reward myself with a cup of tea or a walk in nature after a productive writing session.
That's a great idea. It's about finding those small rewards that make the habit more enjoyable
Okay.
and reinforce that positive behavior.
The key is to choose rewards that align with your goals and values.
Absolutely.
So if I'm trying to improve my fitness, rewarding myself with a sugary treat might not be the best choice.
Probably not, right?
Maybe a new workout outfit instead.
Exactly. Maybe a new workout outfit, a massage, or a healthy cooking class.
That makes more sense.
It's about making sure those rewards are supporting your long-term aspirations.
Right, not undermining them.
Exactly.
This is all making so much sense. It's about creating a system where good habits are not only easy and attractive,
Yes,
but also incredibly rewarding.
you got it. It's about making those positive behaviors something you crave,
Yeah.
not something you dread.
Okay, I'm feeling motivated to design my own system of satisfying habits. But I know we have more to cover.
We do.
What other insights from Atomic Habits can help us unlock our full potential?
There's still some key gems to explore.
Okay.
In the next part, we'll dive into the importance of choosing the right habits,
Okay.
staying motivated in the long run, and embracing the power of continuous improvement.
I can't wait. Welcome back to our deep dive into Atomic Habits.
We're back.
We've uncovered so many valuable insights already.
It's been a great discussion.
Yeah, from the power of those tiny changes
Right.
to designing our environment and shaping our mindset.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it's all connected.
But we're not done yet.
Okay, what else is there?
We've got some key pieces of the puzzle left.
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right. So one thing Clear emphasizes is choosing the right habits to focus on in the first place.
Makes sense.
He talks about playing a game where the odds are in your favor.
What does that mean?
So it means choosing habits that align with your natural abilities
Okay.
and inclinations.
Gotcha.
He suggests that we all have certain areas where we're genetically predisposed to excel.
Interesting.
Like he uses the example of Michael Phelps.
Okay, the Olympic swimmer.
Right. He has a unique body type and physiology that make him well suited for swimming.
Right.
Of course, Phelps's talent was nurtured through tons of training,
Yeah.
but his natural gifts played a role.
So it's not just about hard work and determination.
Right. It's not just about effort.
Our genes actually influence our potential.
Yeah, they definitely play a part.
Okay.
Clear's not saying that genes determine our destiny,
Right.
but it's about working with our natural wiring,
Okay.
not against it.
Gotcha.
He says, genes do not eliminate the need for hard work. They clarify it. They tell us what to work hard on.
That's a powerful quote.
Yeah.
So instead of forcing myself to develop habits
Right.
that feel like an uphill battle,
Yeah.
I should focus on areas where I'm naturally inclined
Exactly.
or where I have some aptitude.
It's about identifying those activities that you naturally gravitate towards.
Okay.
Those things that energize and engage you.
Things that feel more natural.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
If you're drawn to creative pursuits, maybe focus on habits that support your artistic talents.
Okay.
Like writing, painting, or music.
Right.
Or if you thrive in social settings,
Yeah.
prioritize habits that strengthen your relationships
Makes sense.
and expand your network.
This is making me rethink my approach.
It's about finding habits that really resonate with who you are.
Yeah. Aligning them with your identity.
Exactly. Your values and your strengths.
I like that.
When you do that,
Yeah.
the effort feels less like a chore,
Right.
more like an expression of who you are.
This is so helpful. But even when we choose the right habits,
Yeah,
there will be times when we get bored
of course.
or discouraged or we lose momentum.
It happens.
How do we stay motivated in the long run?
So Clear highlights the importance of keeping things fresh
Okay.
and engaging. He suggests something called habit shaping,
Okay.
where you gradually scale up your habits
Okay.
to prevent boredom and plateaus.
So it's not about getting stuck.
Right, exactly.
Well-
For example, if you're building a running habit,
Yeah.
you might start with short walks,
Right.
gradually increasing the distance and intensity.
Their time.
Right, over time.
Okay.
He also talks about reflecting on your progress and making adjustments.
As needed.
Yes, it's not set it and forget it.
Go ahead.
It's about continuously evaluating and refining.
So we need to be flexible.
Exactly.
So-
He encourages scheduling regular time for review and reflect.
So like a check-in.
Yeah, like a weekly review, a monthly check-in,
Okay.
or even just a few minutes each day.
You see how it's going.
Right, to assess your progress, celebrate wins, and identify areas for improvement.
Like a continuous improvement process.
Exactly, a continuous improvement process for your habits.
I like that.
Making sure they're serving you.
Right. They're helping you move towards your goals.
Exactly.
This makes perfect sense.
It's about being mindful of your behaviors
Yeah.
and making adjustments.
As needed.
As needed, yeah.
Right.
It's about creating a dynamic system for growth, not rigidly sticking to a plan
Right.
that's no longer serving you.
This whole deep dive into atomic habits has been so eye-opening.
It's good stuff, right?
I feel like I have a new understanding
That's great to hear.
of how habits work
Mm-hmm.
and how I can use them to create positive change.
It's all about those small changes,
Yeah.
consistently applied.
They can lead to remarkable results.
Exactly. Those tiny improvements are the building blocks of extraordinary change.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.
Your insights have been so valuable.
I'm glad you found it helpful.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey
Yes, thanks for listening.
into the world of atomic habits.
It's a fascinating topic.
We hope you've gained some practical strategies
Yeah, some tools to use
and a fresh perspective.
on how small changes can lead to big results.
Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step,
One step at a time.
or maybe even just a tiny habit.
That's all it takes.
Until next time, keep those tiny gains coming.